Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Hip Horse. Tommy D with my man, Johnnie Lowe, Breeders' Cup time, everyone's favorite time of the year if you're a horse racing fan. Johnny, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. A little tired. Got off work. Decided I had to put in a few more hours looking over the form sheet, watching race replays, trying to dig in and see how this track at Keeneland's going to play. Looking at weather reports. I mean, the only thing I couldn't really study is if a horse is going to stumble and lose a rider out of the gate. I tried to cover all the bases that I could. Other than that, and, guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Johnny, unfortunately, we cannot handicap the trips sometimes. Sometimes horses get bad trips. Sometimes we have the best horse, and things happen in this game. As we know, that's all part of what can happen in this game. But welcome back to the Hip Horse. Tommy D and Johnnie Lowe. If you're new to the channel, hit that like, subscribe. More horse racing content for you. We're going to talk about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile today. If you've been following us on the channel, we run at the Triple Crown races, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. Those are our big things. And we're all along the 3-year-old trail. So why not take a look early at the 2-year-olds, Johnny? The Breeders' Cup Juvenile, that's a race 9 on Friday. We're shooting this on Thursday, guys. So we're putting it out for you. Johnny, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, there's one main colt everyone's talking about, number 3, Cave Rock. But I can't wait to hear your thoughts about this lineup.
Yeah, so I think the juvenile race is pretty interesting. I've been going back and looking at the numbers for the past races, and there just hasn't been a horse that's put up the type of numbers that this guy's put up. He's got a 101, a 104, a 98 higher speed figure. Base numbers are good. I'm sure when I look at the sheets, they're all going to be some low numbers. With that being said, ultimately our one of our goals is to try to find the Kentucky Derby winner in May. And this might not be the most productive race because it's so far away from the Kentucky Derby. But Nyquist, Street Sense, they both won this race and came back to win the Kentucky Derby. So there is a possibility that a horse could come out of here and win that race. And so digging into the race, there's 10 horses. I think that there's a horse or two that's got interesting pedigree. I think there's a horse or two that might not show up. There could be that complexity in there. He was a horse everybody was riding high on when Game Winner won. It's just sometimes you mix in some new stallions and you just don't know who's going to be the one that produces the horse that wants to route based off their sprints and what they've done so far against a little bit lesser company. With that being said, 3 out of the last 4 juvenile winners were the 1X Fem line. Forte just so happens to be the 1X Fem line, which is interesting. He's also won a route at the track, which you've got to like that. But I think he's got some serious sire limitations. And when I say that, Violence's best progeny have been No Parole, Volatile, and Dr. Chivel. They're all dead sprinters. They don't want anything to do with going 2 turns. And that kind of scares me a little bit. If he had a different stallion, that maybe produced some things that wanted 2 turns, I think I would have to look at him as a really serious contender to Cave Rock. And I really want to find somebody that might have a little bit better odds that can compete against him. Another horse in this race, Lost Ark, he's by Violence as well. He didn't get the best trip in the Breeders' Futurity. They came in the race at 4th day 1. He got smoked by 10 lengths. I'm sure he can run better than that. He's out of Marion Ravenwood. Marion Ravenwood also dropped another horse that's going to be running in the Breeders' Cup this year named Nest. She's by Curlin, though. Curlin's a totally different level sire than Violence, and it shows. She also dropped Idol, who's by Curlin, who won a 1.25 mile grade 1 race at Santa Anita. So they have no problem getting the distance. Does Lost Ark want the distance? I don't know. He won a mile at Monmouth by 7 lengths. I don't really know who he'd be there. I know Major Dude, who ran 3rd, is going to be running the turf race. But maybe he's better on turf than dirt. I don't really know. The other horse that kind of interests me in here a little bit, and it's just intriguing horse. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but Paulo Lobo is a pretty good trainer. He's 22% on the year. He's got a horse named Hurricane J. So Hurricane J's by Nyquist, who won in 2015. Hurricane J's sire, Uncle Mo, won in 2010. They're looking for 3 generations of juvenile winners. So far in the juvenile, there's been Capote and Boston Harbor, Untitled Song, and Midshipman, who are the only 2 that have 2 generations of winners. Midshipman, I think he's still having babies. Boston Harbor, no. So really, at this point, they've kind of got the advantage here. I don't know if he's good enough to win. I do know he has speed. He's got Talamo. He scratched out in an allowance race last week to get into this race at 30-1. Maybe they bust out of the rail, and K-Brock's probably a little faster if he can sit off. He's only went 1 turn so far, 2 6-furlong races, but obviously they see something in that horse that the morning line maker doesn't see, and it could work to the handicapper's advantage. Let's say you're playing a superfecta in that race and you need a bum to hit the board. I think he's one I might sneak in there. I just have a suspicion that this horse might have a little bit more talent than it looks like by the numbers, and maybe the stretch out for him at a track with tight turns like that could improve him. And then there's Blazing Sevens, who's by Good Magic. Good Magic won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile as a maiden. He went into the race. Voltioro was the favorite. You had Salamini in there, and Good Magic went and swept them off their feet in 2017 at Del Mar. He's out of Trophy Girl by Warriors Reward. I think it's a decent cross. The only thing that I'm not a real big fan of is the Femline hasn't produced a whole lot. There was King David by Grandmother, but Blazing Sevens is the first project dropped by Trophy Girl. I do like the fact that Pratt is getting off of Lost Ark to ride this horse. That shows me that he's got a little bit more faith. This horse wants the distance. Although the horse hasn't went 2 turns yet, 6 furlongs, 7 furlongs, and a mile. 2 of those races in the slop. I think that he probably should get better running longer distance. So that might move him up, and he's going to be coming off the base. If there is a hot contested base, he's a horse that you might want to keep an eye on. I'm not sure how the track's going to play. And the fact that he's ran well in the slop, it's 50% chance of rain. Who knows what's going to happen there? But that's something that could factor in, and you've already seen what he's done. Baffert has his other horse, National Treasure, in there. The Quality Road out of Medaglia d'Oro Mare. It's a pretty similar cross to the Blazing Sevens, in that it's Mr. Prospector over the El Prado line. He got smoked by K-Brock last time. Maybe he needed to route one time. I know Johnny Velasquez and Bob Baffert have a lot of success. So there's another horse. They're putting blinkers back on him. They took the blinkers off last time. Maybe he liked the blinkers and he wants to stretch out at 8-1. The 10-hole though, it's kind of a bad draw. But he could be dangerous. When I break down K-Brock, I kind of just looking at his stallion line here. He's by Arrogate. Arrogate is looking to be the first winner ever to have a stallion with his sire line, Mr. Prospector, and Broodmare sire line, Mr. Prospector as well. So what that means is there's never been a horse in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile that's had a sire that was inbred Mr. Prospector top and bottom. So top sire line, Arrogate's by Unbridled Song goes back to Mr. Prospector. He's out of Bubbler, who's by Distorted Humor. That's Mr. Prospector line. There's never been a sire in the history of the race that's done such a thing. And I want to say there's never been a stallion that's been like that. That's Kentucky Derby. That's sired a Kentucky Derby winner either. The sire line has had success in the juvenile though. Unbridled Song, who won, as well as sired winner Midshipman. Classic Empire is also bred on the Unbridled line through Empire Maker and Pioneer of the Nile. Unbridled also sired Anise, who won in 1999. So you look at the history of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and that sire line is scattered throughout it. So there is a good possibility, and Arrogate's progeny have been stretching out pretty well. I've been a little impressed by it. There is a possibility that this horse is going to thrive at the mile of 16th. He won easy last time he ran, albeit a field at Santa Anita with mostly Baffert horses. I think that this is a good opportunity for Juan Hernandez maybe to come in and get a win at 3 or 4 to 5. But I'm kind of hoping he doesn't run the race of his life and maybe we get a price. I think he might even be an underlay. I think some of the other horses' odds possibly could go up.
Yeah, Johnny, on Friday, I think number 3 Cave Rock is going to be your biggest favorite out of the Breeders' Cup races. Not saying much there, but 4 to 5 morning line. Bob Baffert trains, doing nothing wrong. Put up a 104 buyer last time at the mile and a 16th in the American Pharoah Grade 1. The next closest buyer speed would be his counterpartner, National Treasure, with a 97 in that same race. So saying that, I think it's going to be tough to beat number 3 Cave Rock, but I'm if I gotta take a shot at a couple, what would be your top long shot pick here, or what horse do you think or colt could beat Cave Rock here?
So I'm tempted to say Blazing Sevens is going to come out and run a big race. I think that's a horse that has a really nice pedigree cross, and he's coming off the pace. I don't know how the track is going to play. I know with the 2-year-olds, there's a lot of speed. A lot of times the speed can hold up. With National Treasure putting the blinkers on in the 10 hole, Velasquez has got to send the horse. I mean, you definitely don't want to be 5 or 6 wide in the first turn, especially at Keeneland. So I'm thinking he sends. Verifying pretty quick horse, Badcocks, Justify. I don't think the horse is really going to want the distance, but he is a $775,000 horse. I think that he's going to try to get out there. Obviously, Cave Rock has speed. He's going to be out there. I think the horse on the rail, Hurricane J, he showed speed his first 2 starts. But one thing I like about it is if you look at the second to last falls he's had, second by head, first by nose, first by 2.5 lengths, ends up winning by 3 3/4 lengths. It showed me that he's got a little something extra in the tank. Now, I don't know if he's fast enough to go out with these other horses, although he's been getting the lead sprinting, but I think Talamo's kind of he's a crafty rider. I think if he can get a good spot, hugging the rail, right behind the leading group, I think he can get the jump on some of these other horses that are closing. So I would say my top 3, excluding Cave Rock, who, 3 to 5, I would expect him to, he should win by 5. But let's say he doesn't. Let's say he wants some long shots or some exotics. I would throw in Hurricane J at 30 to 1. I think Blazing Sevens is a horse that I would probably have to put in there. And then National Treasure and Johnny Velasquez on the outside, although I'm not a huge fan of the 10 hole. I think that's a horse that I'd have to include as well. Forte, I really love the Fem line, and I'm a huge fan of playing these 1X lines. I just don't know how well this Violence top side's going to hold up. If he's 4 to 1 or less, I'd probably stay away from him and just hope that he just doesn't have it. If he goes off at a little bit higher odds, I think that he'd be 5 to 1 or higher. I think he's worth putting in there as well.
There we go. Talking the Breeders' Cup Juvenile with Johnnie Lowe here. Cave Rock, 4 to 5 morning line. Johnnie Lowe throwing out a few other horses there if you want to take a couple shot to beat this tough 2-year-old. A lot of hype coming into this race on Cave Rock, Johnny. Let's move on to the next topic here. Let's talk about the Breeders' Cup Classic. Let's talk about the big race here. Another big horse, another big favorite, probably the biggest favorite of the whole Breeders' Cup. In the Classic too, doesn't happen too much, but Flightline is going to be your morning line favorite here, Johnny. We did talk about it in our other video. This is race 11 on Saturday, 1.25 miles. What are your thoughts of this field? I mean, it's a really nice field, but Flightline morning line 3 to 5. Tell me your thoughts here.
Yeah, I think 3 to 5 might be high. The futures wagers and stuff like that right now that are going on have him at somewhere between 1 to 5 and 2 to 5. He could go off as the heaviest favorite ever in the Breeders' Cup Classic, which says a lot because this isn't a field of bad horses. It really never is. Every year there's a few horses. Sometimes it's really deep that they're excellent horses and would probably be favored in other years. Unfortunately, this year Flightline is going to be the 1 to 5 favorite. Now, from a gambling standpoint, if somehow you could say, hey, I'm not really a huge fan of Flightline. He's ranked 5 times. He's a 4-year-old, almost turning 5 here. Maybe he's a bleeder. I'm not really sure. There's got to be something. If there's something that you could pick off and you want to make a stand here, I think you're going to get your odds. Morning line, Taba 8 to 1. Life is Good 6-1. You've got Hot Rod Charlie 15-1, who ran he ran a pretty good race last year in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Nick Sco went wire to wire, but I mean he was a respectable fourth. The three horses that were in front of him, they're all gone now. So at this point, I mean, I guess he's the leading runner from last year's race. You've got Epicenter, who's training like a monster. He ran a huge race in the Travers. Ever since that layoff he took from the Preakness, he's come back and he's ran a couple of bang up races, winning the Jim Dandy pretty easily, and then winning the Travers. And he has tactical speed too. He's not the horse that has to go out to the lead, battle it out in the front. He can sit back off the pace, and it's pretty push button. You've got Olympiad in here who just won a 1.25 mile race at Jockey Gold Cup at Saratoga. The time was 2 minutes and 2 seconds, but even with that, it was still, I mean, a somewhat respectable field. I think the Travers field might actually have been a little bit better, but the fact is he did win a grade 1 1.25 mile race on dirt, going 2 turns. So that is something to put in there. And on his best day, he's a pretty good horse. And then you've got Rich Strike, who he likes Churchill Downs. I don't know if he really likes Keeneland the same way. He's only ran there once, and he ran third in a optional 80,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime. But I think looking at this race, there's 2 ways you can go. Either you just watch and enjoy because you don't think anybody's going to beat Flightline, and at 1 to 5, it's probably not worth your money. There could be a disqualification, doctors fall off. I don't know, Or you could say, hey, I've got faith that Life is Good actually can run a 1.25 miles. I think that horse has good speed. I think that maybe Flightline sits behind him, and maybe when they hit the turn, Life is Good's loaded. Yeah, he lost the Dubai World Cup, and he got beat by Hot Rod Charlie and Country Grammar and Chumma Wizard. But I can't remember a time that their horse wired the field in Dubai. I think that's a track that plays a lot slower. It was a 2-minute, 4-second race. I think that it's a deeper track. I don't think it favors front runners. I remember when Gun Runner got ran down by Arrogant, people weren't saying, oh, Gun Runner was short. They were saying, oh, how much better is Arrogant, when he broke out of the gate. I think that if they ran that same race at Keeneland, Arrogant, there's no way that he can get to Gun Runner. It's tight turns, it's bank turns. You just can't really do things like that here. So I think that does move Life is Good up a little bit. Authentic didn't seem to have a problem going 1.25 miles. He's by into mischief on this track. So last time they ran the Breeders' Cup Classic there, I mean, it was just it was a merry-go-round. Everybody, you just went wire to wire every race. We'll see how that plays into this. I think that the 3-year-olds are kind of dangerous. I think that Taiba he's working lights out. I mean, Alfred's really tightening the screws. He's working with fast horses. He's working them every 5 days. I mean, he's coming in about as fit as this horse is going to get. I love his running action. He looks just like Gun Runner out there. He's got his head down. He breathes good. He's got a long stride. Is he fast enough at this point in his career to run down the likes of the Life is Goods in the Flightlines and the Epicenters? I'm not sure, but I think we're going to find out. I don't think Alfred's shipping a horse out there that he doesn't think is ready to go. Out of all the horses that are in his barn, this is the one that he chose to run. Other ones qualified. Defund did. He could have got Country Grammar in there. I mean, he could have ran other horses. This is the one that he said, I'm going with Taiba. So for me, I think he might be the wise guy horse, actually. He's 8-1 morning line, depending on how much money goes on Flightline. He's either going to go up and down in value. I hope he goes up to around 10-1. At that point, that might be a horse you want to look at. And then Epicenter, I've been watching him in the morning, working out, jogging, and just seeing his flesh. He looks like a very conditioned machine. And who knows if the race sets up for him? This could be a horse that he's 5-1 morning line. He might float up as well. And he's got the potential. He's got the talent to do it. The only thing I could see on Flightline that I could knock at all is when he shipped out to Belmont, he didn't break that well. They rushed into the lead. They ran really, really fast, quarter and half. He went head and head with Speaker's Corner. And then when they hit the stretch, he won by 6, beating Happy Saver. But Happy Saver, I mean, I wouldn't put him in the top tier here, although he's been running good seconds and thirds in other places, but most of the fields ran against him and they beat him this year. So not really being able to pull away from him. He was Flightline was in front by 4.5, and he ended up winning by 6. So basically down the stretch, he only beat Happy Saver by a length and a half. Uh, I don't know. Maybe you can make a case from seeing that maybe somebody else in this field might be able to stay with Flightline going down the stretch. For example, if you look at the race with Hot Rod Charlie, he was 4th by a length, ended up 4th by 5.5. They made up 4.5 lengths going 1 1/8 off of him. It's kind of tough. I mean, I'm really shooting darts here, trying to come up with some reasoning to bet against the 1 to 5 shot. But if I had to pick some other horses, I think those are the 3 most logical, and their ways of winning are probably either the pace is hot, it melts down, they can get them, or Life is Good goes out to the lead, Flightline lets him go to the lead, and he gets Brave. I think those are pretty much the 3 horses that have the shot.
Yeah, Johnny, nice breakdown there. The classic, obviously talking about Flightline. This could be a horse of the century, the horse that everyone's talking about, no matter who you're talking to. Everyone's asking about Flightline. They're going out in the morning in big crowds just to watch this colt run. Johnny, I guess if I was to take a look at the ones you said, I would say Taiba and Life is Good. You know what I like about Taiba showing up in the Pennsylvania Derby off a 2-month layoff and winning nicely by 3, putting up a 108 buyer. You get money, Mike Smith. So you got the experience there, the son of Gunrunner. So I think Taiba could show up. I know you've been on the Taiba train if you've been following us. Johnny loves Taiba. So I'm staying with you, Johnny. I like Taiba a little bit here. And then Life is Good. If you go back to the last win, did put up a 97 buyer at Aqueduct in the Woodward, but it was a sloppy track, Johnny. If you go back and look at Life is Good, if that track is playing fast, I think Life is Good has a better shot there. And Life is Good might be able to be up in the mix there, like you said, get the lead and maybe just have a little bit more in the tank and surprise people. But it's an uphill battle, I think, for all these colts. They are chasing John Sadler's number 4 Flightline, morning line 3 to 5. Like you said, that should shoot up. $1 million horse, Johnny. There's a lot of talk about this one. Anything else you want to say about Flightline or anything about this field?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if Flightline goes out there and he runs his race and he runs the way that he's been working in the morning, he could do something special. He could see something that's very special. He's a big time outlier for his breeding. We talk about Tappett's stats in races like this. If he does win this race, he's going to be the first one from the entire stallion line since AB India in 1992 to win the race. There's been a lot of horses from the stallion line that have been in the race. None of them have won. Tappett's never sired a Kentucky Derby winner, and I want to say he's 0 for 14 at this point. For Flightline to do what he's doing here and to be able to go this distance, it really is. He's just an outlier. I mean, there's just every once in a while, not even skip a generation type of a horse. He's the last thing he did in the Pacific Classic. I mean, that was Secretariat. Like he won by 20 lengths. And I know people, well, who do you run against? Well, I don't know. Country Grammar won the Dubai World Cup. There was some horses in there that they've got grade 1 wins. That wasn't a cheap race. Maybe they weren't all in the best form of their life, but the fact of the matter is he never broke the whip out. The horse won by 20 lengths, and they were in a canter on the way home. If he asked him a little bit, he sets a track record at Del Mar, which there's been some fast horses that have run over there. We've got Candy Rat, I think, is a track record holder at this point. And I'd like to see somebody argue with me that he wasn't a fast horse. So with that being said, I would like to see something special from a handicapping and bettor's perspective. I'd like to see an upset here. Nothing would be better than seeing the biggest pools of the whole year in the Breeders' Cup Classic and the 1 to 5 shot go down and these payouts balloon and we buy a house. So that's kind of the direction I'm hoping for. Either way, I think I'd be pretty satisfied if Flightline goes out and wins by 15 lengths and we see something incredible. I'm just glad to be on the earth to witness it. If he goes out there and who knows what happens, kind of like the Pegasus World Cup last year, you had Nick Sko, who wired the field in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and everybody's like, that's the greatest horse in the world, and everything. He goes up against Life is Good. Life is Good smokes him in the break, gets out to the lead, makes a tough trip for Nick Sko, and he just couldn't recover. Life is Good, by 3 1/4 lengths. I don't know if Nick Sko is the same breathing the same air as Flightline, but you just never know what's going to happen when they open those gates. And I would like to see an upset. You know, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if a horse was 10-1 and closed out my pick 5 to hit for a 6-figure payout in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, Johnny, horse racing, we are watching it to make us feel good, but a lot of us really are here to make money, Johnny. So I'm with you. The story might be good, a Flightline for us to watch. We might say, hey, we saw the best horse we've ever seen run. That could be a statement possibly if this horse shows up. But if not, I mean, there's opportunity to make money. If Flightline loses, Johnny, you're going to make money. So that's the bottom line here. We appreciate everybody joining us on the Hip Horse. Tommy D and Johnny Lowe, Breeders' Cup special show here for you, taking a look at the Juvenile and the Classic. More horse racing content coming to you, so hit that like, ring that bell if for more shows, guys. Johnny, anything else, my friend, before we get out of here?
Good luck, guys. Good luck out there. Hopefully the prices are plentiful and we land on a few of them.
There we go, guys. Good luck. Breeders' Cup 2022 starting tomorrow. Go get your money. Good luck, everybody.